Okay, everybody, so for number 13, the main thing that you're going to need to remember is domain. And what does domain mean to you? Hopefully it means the x values, okay? So we're looking for any x, which is this axis, okay, that is greater than 7. So what I would do is just go to 7 on the x-axis, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And you want to see on your graph, it needs to be everything going this direction. Well, this one already looks like the winner, believe it or not, because that's exactly what's happening. It's numbers 8, 9, 10, everything bigger than 7. This one would be x is 0, and that doesn't work. This one does have x being at 7, but then it doesn't go to the right like it should for greater than 7. Okay, and number 14, students at a school have to raise money, there's hats left over, 20 boxes ordered, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so I'm going to just kind of focus in on the equations, right? There's this one, and it does say, I do want to make a note that it says x is the number of boxes, okay? And then it says the situation changes, and here's a new equation. So I'm not going to lie, I would pretty much just go to my calculator and type in the first one. And then I would type in the second one. And that's my y1 and my y2. And I would go down to the whole, like what it says about 20 boxes down here. I would go to the table and go to when x is 20. And then I would look at my two y values, because your table is going to look like an x, then it's going to say y1 equals, then it's going to say y2 equals. It's going to give you those two y values. And then it says, all you have to do with those two numbers is it says how many fewer hats will the students have. So it looks like you'll need to subtract those two values. Okay, so whenever you look at that on your calculator, mine is showing me that this value is 997 and that this value is 517. So then, like I say, all you have to do is just subtract them, okay? And so when you subtract that, you are going to get 480, and that should be the number that you grid in. Okay, number 15, what's the solution set for the quadratic equation? Okay, solution set means x-intercepts. Okay, so if you look at the graph, it wants to know where does this graph cross the x-axis, and wherever that happens is the answer. Now, the only thing you're going to have to do first is make sure that that's a 0 first before you begin the problem. But this is already a 0, so we don't need to move anything to the other side. So you can literally just look at this on your calculator. So go to y1, take a look, and let's see where it crosses the axis. So x squared minus 16, it looks something like that on your picture. And if you look at these points and you just count, B is your answer. All right, number 16, a painter charges $35 per hour. Now, I'm going to go ahead and make a note, because anytime you see the word per, then that means that that's the amount that goes with the variable. So it's going to be $35 per hour, I'll use H for hour, plus $40 for a ladder rental, okay? The customer provides the paint. The total charge to paint a customer's house was $950. So this is the equation that represents the situation, but it's saying that, okay, so all this is happening, and then the total at the end is $950. So when you see the word total, a lot of times that is the amount that you're going to equal. And it just wants to know, what is your H? How many hours did the painter paint the house? So you can either try to solve backwards from your answer choices, or this one's pretty easy. I would just try to get the H by itself. So if you're isolating H, this is the first number that needs to go, and right now it's a plus 40. So I need to do minus 40 on both sides. I'll bring this down, and it's a 35H. This is now a 0, and then 950 minus 40 is 910. Now, how do I get the 35 off the H? Well, I divide it off. So now H is equal to whatever that is. So if you just type that into the calculator, mine is telling me 26. And since 26 is not an answer choice, there you go. All right, number 17. So it's saying that f, the graph of f, was changed to make the graph of g, okay? And it just says, which statement describes the changes that were made on f to make the graph of g? So whenever I compare f to g, so from f to g, I would just make some little notes as to what I see. The first thing I see is the slope has changed. F, it looks like on f the slope is negative, and the reason it's negative is because it's going down. And so whenever they moved it to g, then the slope became positive. So the slope went from negative to positive because it's going up now. That's the first thing I notice. And the other thing I know, well, I don't even know. Let's just go with that and see if that helps us. A, the slope was multiplied by 2, and the y entered. Okay, that's already a lie because we know the slope changed with the negative. So anything that doesn't involve negative slope is out. Okay, so now that we're down to these two, let's compare this, the y-intercept. So y-intercept is where you hit the axis. So f hits at 3, and then g, the g graph, hits at negative 2. So would you call that an increase or a decrease? Well, I'd call that a decrease. So we need to go with the one that talks about that. So it's going to be C. Okay, number 18, the population of a town is currently 9,000. Here's some equation. And I already know probably I'm going to be typing this in. It can be used to estimate P, the population, T years from now. So this is years, and this is population. So you might want to make a note of that. Based on this function, which statement is true? Well, I'm not even going to read these until I look at this on my calculator. And I think what's going to happen is once you type it into your Y1, it's going to be hard to see the picture. And if you can't see the picture and you don't like that, one of the buttons that we've been talking about is Zoom. I think it's a 0. It's Zoom Fit. Zoom 6 and Zoom 0 are your two best buttons if you can't see something. And so if you would type this in, and please hit Zoom 0, then you're going to be looking at a graph that looks something like that, okay? So read F. The population is increasing at a constant rate. This is not increasing at a constant rate. This is decreasing, and then it's increasing, okay? So we're going to eliminate F. The population, okay, that I'll check later. The population, that I'll check later. Okay, the reason I'm just reading the ones right now without numbers is just so I can look at the picture. So J, the population will increase, then decrease. That's the exact opposite. So now between G and H, you're going to want to go to your table because anything that has to do with numbers is going to be a table question. So if you do second graph, you'll get your table. And you can look at between 11 and 12 years. So on the x-axis, look between 11 and 12. And then see if the number crosses over 10,000, and I think it does, so that would be the answer. Okay, number 19, the graph of this is shown below, so you don't even have to look on the calculator. If the coefficient is changed from 3 to another positive number to create another function, how will the graph compare with this original? So now what I would do is I would go ahead and pick up a calculator. Let your Y1 be this one that you're looking at. And then in Y2, this is where you get to make up one. So it says it's just changed to any other positive number. So what I would do is just, change it to any other positive number you want. I'm going to go 5, just because. But keep the rest of the equation the same. You could change it to 2, you could change it to 4, it doesn't really matter just as long as it's positive. And look at both of them together, and once you do that, you'll be able to read all of your choices, and I believe this is the one that will be true. Okay, so this is all kinds of crazy right here. The number inside of here is really an x value, which means whatever it's equal to over here is really a y value. So if you want to think of it as a point, it's basically giving you this point. It's giving you the point 9 comma negative 7, and based on that same idea, this one is giving you a point of negative 7, 9. And it's saying what is the value of y when x is a negative 7. So since we've written out these 2 points, it just wants us to look at the y value when x is negative 7, so the answer would be 9. Okay, 21. The late fee for overdue books at the library is 25 cents a day. And, oops. And I feel like we've done this one before, with a maximum late fee of $5 a book, which graph models the total late fee for 3 books that were checked out on the same day. Okay, so we need to see that the rate is going up by a quarter per day. Hold on 1 second. Okay, so this is talking about 3 books that are getting checked out on the same day, and they are overdue. So if it's 25 cents per day per book, then how much would it be for 3 books? Well, it would be 3/4 instead. So we actually want to see a graph that's going up by 75 cents at a time. So if you look at this one, these are your money. So this one's going up by $1, so that can't be right. It's got to be about 75 cents. This one looks like it's only going up by maybe a quarter per day, so that can't be right. This one looks to be 50 cents, then 50 cents, then 50 cents. So by process of elimination, and then if you verify, it is just under $1, so that looks good. Okay, which inequality is equivalent to this? Okay, notice what they've done. They've taken this mess, and now all the y's are by themselves. So that's supposed to trigger in your mind that you need to isolate the y. So how do we isolate y? Well, we actually just pretend that this is an equal sign, and we just draw the river across the river. So I'm isolating y, so I'm going to minus the 7x first. When I bring this down, make sure you keep that negative on it, okay? And I'm going to recopy this, so negative 7 plus 8, okay. Now, I got to get the negative 2 off the y. So I'm going to divide everybody by negative 2. Now, here's the trick to this one. There's a rule with inequalities. This is a big important rule. If ever you are dividing by a negative, okay, it has to be negative, not just any number. But if you divide by a negative, you must flip the sign in the middle. Okay, so in other words, this is going to be still a y over here, but now instead of a greater than sign, it has to be a less than sign. So right off the bat, these two are gone. And now I've got to reduce this. So this, a negative over a negative, is a positive, and then a positive 8 divided by a negative 2 is a minus 4. So it should be h. And our last one today, the sophomore class needs 216 medium and large. So already I'm getting kind of an equation in my head of medium plus large equals 216. Okay, the number of mediums, okay, mediums is, and in math is equals, so the medium equals 3 times the number of larges. Based on this information, is it reasonable for them to buy 72 large and 144 medium? Well, if you've been kind of writing this out as you go, all you have to do is check your numbers. So in other words, the first thing I would do is add 72 and 144 and make sure it equals 216. And I believe it does, so that doesn't help me. This is probably the statement I need to check, okay? So, is 144 3 times the amount of the larges. Well, 3 times this is actually the complete 216, so no, this is not reasonable. It does not work. And so it's either A or B, and that's what I would write. The number of medium shirts is not 3 times the number of larges.